Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is Bernie here, and I'd like to talk about some of the challenges that come with implementing these type of cloud bursting environments. Typically, the first hurdle to overcome is your networking, right? So you have your on-premises data center network, and then you have something that you're setting up in the cloud in terms of a network, and you have to establish communications between the two of them. And there are a variety of ways to skin this cat, but I'm proposing kind of three simple ones, kind of just to get us started in terms of what's quick and easy and dirty that can get you started and up and running, what's a little more performance-oriented, a little more permanent, requires a little bit more of setup overhead, and then there's kind of an environment that you would set up if you're constantly doing this and you require extremely high performance. So on the left column here of this slide, we see what we consider our quick deployment strategy, which essentially is opening up an SSH tunnel from your on-premises hosts into your cloud environment. And then that allows the IP addresses where the host is sitting inside of your cloud environment to communicate back to your on-premises core filer. And the core filer is where all of your data resides. So when you're going to run a compute job in the cloud, it has to consume data. And instead of having to wholesale copy all that data up into the cloud, we propose this caching approach, which obviously requires real-time access to that data. So in this particular case, overcoming stuff like firewalls, and network security rules and stuff like that, it can get pretty complicated and it can require a lot of changes in your environment. But with this SSH type approach, you can actually get up and running in a few minutes, which is really great, but obviously it has its drawbacks from a performance standpoint. The next tier up in terms of infrastructure that performs better would be routing a private VPN link, routing a VPN link over the public internet, creating a routed network between the cloud infrastructure and your on-premises infrastructure. Obviously, this allows a lot more flexibility because all of your, if you set up your routing correctly and everything, all your hosts sitting in the cloud have access to resources that sit inside your data center and vice versa. But obviously, this also still gets routed over the public internet. You can't really control where your packets are going and how they're getting delivered and stuff. So there are some performance limitations to this type of environment. So if you're running into those type of performance issues, the next obvious step in those cases is what we call, the private dedicated link. Amazon calls it Direct Connect. Google has a peering type network link that you can do as well. And in those cases, you're basically setting up some router firewall equipment both in the cloud and on your premises, and then have a 10 gig link between the two. And this offers you the most direct, most reliable path between the cloud environment and your on-premises compute environment. And obviously, depending on what use case you're doing and what type of data you're churning and how long you're doing it for and what type of time horizon you're going to be doing, these are all considerations to be taken when you're setting this up. So, some of our prospects and customers, they start with just a simple SSH version, and they see it works, and then they quickly realize, all right, this doesn't meet my performance expectations from the ability to transfer data back and forth. So then they might go with the private VPN, the public internet VPN, or they might actually go straight to the direct link. So obviously, there are different costs associated with it, different setup overheads, different people involved in your organizations to make this happen. But I did want to just let everybody know these are the types of typical connectivity scenarios that we're running through.